Alrighty then, so let's just check. Okay, pause, pause, check, check, check. Okay. Okay, let's just lower this guy a little bit right here. The flags look even. I have my little design things over here. Okay. And let's just do this. Okay, that's better. And even though this is funny because this is straight when you look at it, but in the video it's not. You have to make it crooked to make it look straight. It's kind of like a recent abilities of what we do in our government. Okay. Okay, so okay, hi everyone. Charles Richard Zarelli here, and it's a pleasure to be here on the day of inauguration. Um, I wish the best first to those leaving, and I wish the best to those who are entering. Um, it's not an easy thing, I think, when we see, excuse me, I just need to bring this in. It's not an easy thing. Thank you very much, and thank you very much. These are the most beautiful ladies in America, and that's for respect to every lady, of course. Um, it's not an easy thing when we see so much anguish, but what I see is a government that needs some aid. The one thing that I've always modeled and my directive is that the Constitution must be changed to mask the Declaration of Independence, in which it presently does not. And I wrote a book about this. It stands for life and relative to a person, business, and a government. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. And it also represents from life to AKA what we would think of as death. But there are scrolls that are almost 500,000 years old, which show there is no word death. Yes, we lose our human body, but I believe an advancement in our civilization is required. I think America must be stronghold and to take this. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Charles Richard Zarelli, and twice I did step up to the plate to run for the president of the United States. And unfortunately, this didn't work. And forgive my lighting because it kind of puts a shadow on my hat. I can't help some of these things. And I just wanted to do a video on this day, and it was a last minute thing. I just felt it should be, or very well could have been, myself being inaugurated. But I had some very funny things happening between emails being deleted, and I can't tell you how I've reached out to probably 15 to almost 20,000 people, and twice I was proven that my emails in transit were adjusted, not by my words. It caused a lot of anguish to me, because it wasn't my intent. I respect, I understand design. Just a snippet about myself and the finalization. I have several licenses. A couple of them have the word master in it. To me, it's not really a big deal. I respect people, but I see design. And when I zoom out and I see all of what we represent, we are not acknowledging any bit of design. We're not acknowledging real science. We're not acknowledging the very key things that can allow us to advance. And do we accept this? I do not. I might not look like Brad Pitt and I might not have his abs. Sorry, Jen. But my mind and my heart are, and combined and or individually, they offer our country. I believe where we go to next is relative of what we do now. And in the last sentence of the Declaration of Independence, I believe we're avoiding, and I believe the one most important thing is we need to judge what we do in our country by the executive orders. Anyone who wants to see the executive orders, you can go to congress.gov. And there are other supported places elsewhere that you can find as well. Um, how I see what we can advance to, our design within the Constitution, is avoiding what the Declaration of Independence represents. But didn't the Declaration form our 13 original colonial states? It formed a unity and a solidarity to our government. It was adopted in 1776 on July 4th. We waited 13 years to make the Constitution. But what happened? The Constitution, did you know, most people don't know this, and I see a couple of people who are my good friends out there. Um, did you know it doesn't protect women? It doesn't protect children. It doesn't protect racial equality or our earth. So, which means we don't have an ecology. There's no ergonomics. People started to, several years back, use the word ergonomics and they got rid of it. Don't use it. It's raising up the word design. I am. And I believe it's what we really need to do. And I believe if I would have had a fair chance of my civil and civic rights, and I'm putting myself out there as anyone who is not typically a politician, and I refuse. I don't really want that term. I could be the president of the United States. I will refuse the term to be a politician because I want it to be where fact check and truth check and all these people, that I would earn better than a 90% rating. That means some of the things I might assess as I'm figuring them out, but the research and what we represent should be on that tone. It should be relative, I believe, of how we see what we represent within our imaginations to make real. And even Albert Einstein had made a comment about that, about imagination, how extringently important it is to then use it to come up with other ideas and then put them into effect. America has all the bit of power. We are the strongest person, uh, per person, I should say. We are the strongest nation. We are the most richest nation on our globe, on our world, on our earth. This is beautiful. I'm so proud to say that. So, what I want to say today is, and I would like to put the challenge out here now, January 20th, 2021, um, that we need to reconstruct and reform our Constitution. It must match the Declaration of Independence. I insist on this. And I want people to really insist too, because if you don't, we're only seeing record profit corporation highs. And then what do the record profit corporation highs do? favor big business. And then what do you think we have as we everything as far as relative to IRs and RAS, it's part of our psychological framing. And through media, we have not really seen the ability to have media advance us and to take the inertia that happens when they say something. I mean, I'd like to make the point very simply. You go into California, add 5 plus 7 to 5 plus 7, you got 12. Going to New York, 5 plus 7 is 12, right? 1 plus 1 is 2, either place. But our media doesn't have this equality. Our media doesn't have a true deliverance. We see many, many different things. We don't talk about the executive orders that every president has done to evaluate and by what they've said in words, how to evaluate to not only advance our society, to be fair to people, because all these people saying I'm sticking up for people, sticking up for people. What happened January 6th is not acceptable in our society. And I think those people are misled because I think there's some things that they don't really see that when the rich are being made richer in the last 40 something years, we've only seen 600% plus increase fold to the rich and record profit corporation highs in the last 5 to 7 years. This is a financial fact. And when you lower the GDP, it only affects the price of what people receive for labor. And you wonder why people are only making so little bit. But meanwhile, China has paid everyone through the whole entire pandemic. Let's talk about any bit of fault at a different time, however that could be. But we don't see how we're using a wise ability from the people to stand up, to come forwards, to insist. And then if we don't, the people who have already got into the habits, and we understand there's a certain degree of personality realities as per the Mayans, the Aztecs, and where they got it from. I wrote this in the book. Goes back 460,000 years. That 140 personality realities, we can predict who people are, whether you're a police officer, a fireman, or anything else. So what do we do? Take the people who might not be predicted to be a something greater and then just extinguish them? I don't want to. It's not fair. It's not what our creators would want. It's not what God would want. God knows everything. And what do you think balances the top is those at the bottom? But we're shunting those at the bottom and we don't have any equality to make a respect to advance. And I believe through the series that the Declaration stands for is a specific ability of grand orders. And I say this because it's a respect to life, respect to those who even understand that word, but it has a decency. It is about life, living in the pursuit of happiness, and that we are all created equal, and that we are endowed by our creators with certain unalienable rights. What do these things really mean? Most people really don't understand. But let me just continue. So these are the things that I put challenge to any agency because from the last 40 something years, I'll say, let me even go further than that. The last 200 years, we've not seen any president except the Emancipation Proclamation. That might have been different and it caused the ball to start rolling. Yes, that's a great accomplishment in what we have done in this country. But no other president after that, although they have claimed they were going to make a stability within racial equality, we don't see it. To advance, we have to. And we can't have those at the top thinking that the grand orders that they had prior to whatever they thought that went by the Constitution is an equality to relevance of how they will escalate into the next even. I believe that they will lose. There are statements that say those who have the most now will have the least next. And all, just so whatever it's worth, I just want to add this in because I think this is important to our life for right guidance. We don't see our history. We're not showing our history. Well, look at us now. All these disembarments that we have here, we can embark on what we want, but if we're bought out to come together, what do we really have except just a name being an American? Look how many people are trying to fight for their rights and to take these ladies and make it be justified. And they have the idea because they're seeing so many people are not being honest. And like the Declaration of Independence says, quote, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to sue among the powers of our earth. The licenses I've had, I could build you an antenna out of your pen. The science I've learned, I've gotten two of my neighbors who are insulin dependent. I got them off insulin. I don't want to say how, but I didn't charge them anything. And I got to tell you, when you understand epigenetics, it means every cell in every one of our bodies change 10,000 times a day of gene alterations. These are fact of science. I believe when we start to see the fact of science, there's still suffering at many degrees still that those who may want to suffer people on purpose would still be appeased and yet allow themselves to rise into the next. I think it's a crucial thing to say to some of those who are not, just us laymen. I like to call myself, I like to be part of a layman, no matter how many licenses, no matter how smart I may get. And I've done some very, very interesting things. Um, I always tell people, ask me what I haven't done. It's easier than what I have. And I've jawed into some political things. We got a school closed down and reopened with two principals. The doors never closed, but it was reformed on paper. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And I was part of this. So um, I think that the challenges that I'd like to see changed, and if not, then please remember the name Charles Richard Zarelli for president, because we're seeing several of these things here, and I've not seen them change nor be acknowledged. I believe as I stand in front of you, I'm the first person on the face of this globe who made a video in 2016, Charles R. Zarelli for president, and it's on YouTube as we speak, even though the sound somehow got corrupted in the third video. Why is this? And also, I want to use everyone who has the upper corporations and incorporate them and give them first up choice to be part of everything, because they are an integral part of what makes us number one. They're team players, but they can't be not taxed in the way that we have it. They pay less tax than any one of almost of us who are the laymen. And that to me is not sticking up for what we stand for within the respect of our ecology. We're letting all these corporations have carte blanche on destroying so much earth and so much ecology. I mean, let's face it, one proof of this is proof, this will show you hands down, really, in the respect of what I'm speaking of, is that a child born has about 230 or 240 toxins in their bloodstream from their mother. Excuse me? What? It's true. It's a fact. So, this is one thing I want to see. So, I challenge this administration, prove it. I don't want to hear your words. Please, please. And I don't care what race and religion you are, I respect everyone equally. It has to be. I want that respect from someone who might not look like me. It goes back and forth. It's a thumbs up and a win-win when you have unison. Does one army man win a war? No. But yet, how many Afro Americans and different races and cultures that we have in the American army, but yet do we give them credit in our society? We don't. We just kind of use them, I guess. Not acceptable. Not acceptable. So these are the challenges. I believe a balance is really extremely important, and it's important to think of these things with a strong heart, a strong mind. Um, you kind of have to accept what these things are doing, because we, all of us, are one people. And I would like to say my speeches, my words, my heart, my mind, I'm looking to attract those of us who are turned off, because it's you who is important. To me, you're the Geiger counter. As a professional troubleshooter for 40 years with an excellent rating, and I want to say, actually, honestly, I could say, I don't want to say 100%. I could say 99. I won't even do that. And I know I would be well within my right with tens of thousands of things and stuff that I've been in front of, never seen it before, walked away professionally fixed, put a warranty on it, stood by what we had to do. I've earned the nickname A to Z and the Doctor. I didn't ask for that. It's kind of cool. Very cool, actually. So I think America needs a new doctor who's not a politician because the Declaration says so. So time to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume them among the powers of our earth, but not in a way we would toxify our children. It's a fact that I'm not saying things to be down, but we have to say some of the truths to be motivated, maybe to get your rough up a little bit. It's important, because then we're going to make the things change, and we have to be number one. I step into the commanding chief's office, and that's my job. There are going to be some things you're not going to appreciate that I may say, you're not going to understand, but I will explain it. And I don't want it to be ambiguous where we just say certain words and it just, and IRs, internal representation, when I took a certificate for hypnotherapy. And that's why I would like to be straight up and basic. It's important, I think, to be basic. It just makes a clarity to things. And what do politicians normally do? They're very ambiguous. And I'm not saying I won't be, but I will be a person of my word. When I do say these things, this will be the intent of my heart and my mind and my spirit to make happen for us. I think it's important. But being number one is extremely important to me because this is America. Right now, 7 to 9 people are worth 2.1 to 2.4 trillion dollars estimated, give or take, and we are the most liable nation on the face of this globe, even though we are 5% of the world's land mass, and yet we use 30% or more of the world's resources. Do we not say these things that are the truth? I think we need to be a little bit honest, and we can take these because we could fix it. We have plenty. We have plenty. As a nation, we have plenty. And we can roll this forwards, not with hollow promises. How many people that we have that represent these beautiful ladies that were having record uh, record suicides? 16-year-olds, senior citizens, cab drivers, people in general. Ouch. Do you feel this? I do. Design must be implemented to create a new fortress with a respect to a new solidarity and who we could be. We have plenty. Let me continue. So the carbon parts per million footprint, it's over 400 now. I was the first person to say this when it was nearing 400 in 2016. I don't think anyone else had made a video making it a national international emergency, calling it and making it a public debriefing emergency. No one else had done that. I did. By the way, my name is Charles Richard Zarelli, and I'm glad to be here. And I just feel like I wanted to do a video on the day of inauguration because I've been slighted, and I've contacted, oh, I don't know, at least 2 to 5,000 media stations. None of them have gotten back. Now, when someone says I'd like to introduce myself and I'm running as a presidential candidate, why was I not entertained? Not even by one person? What is our media doing? Well, when we find out 2 to 6 people own 6,000 media stations, is there collaboration of a monopolizing strength here? It's taken away my rights. Honestly, I need to say this. So when I see this president looking out and saying he's going to do the right thing for people, I believe that we need to see it. And we need someone who can step in place of him and not disrespect people and not say one thing and do the opposite. I cannot do that. I will not do that. I love us. I feel strong for us. I feel a new fortress for us to advance our civilization. It has to start with America because we have plenty. Let's continue. When are we going to see the seniors be taken care of? That's why I put a phone number relative on the website and relative to having and have the ability to think of senior citizens who want to be involved, but they're so treated like, think about it. Think of the seniors and how we treat them. They get old. They don't really do electronics. They don't have a way to successfully communicate. They're barred from our society in a certain degree. Look at the way that community centers and senior homes treat them. And yet we don't have a regulatory service. We don't have an understanding. When will we put a rating on suffering? The Declaration mentions it twice in the one statement. And those of you who feel, oh, well, the rich are going to, they're going to lose in the end and all that. Well, you know what? Science says the same thing, and so does our Declaration. It says, and it mentions that mankind is more disposed to suffer. One silly question: what do we know between any plant life, animals, fish, reptiles, humans, you name it? What doesn't suffer before it cycles. By the way, that's the word that's 460,000 years old, cycles. And when the mind frame wraps this up into a new degree, it's a positive one. And I see that, I'll be honest with you, I mean, I would love to see people like myself looking into the White House, but I also know I need to represent. And as I would like to transform myself, I would like the ability to transform what we represent too. And recently I started working out. I'm on the road. So maybe that's an initiation for some of you to start working out, and especially those guys out there who are in their first and second trimester. Is it going to be a boy or a girl? I don't know. Some of my good friends, I break their chops like that. Hey, sometimes we have to say the right things, and it's when you care about someone, it's not meant in a derogatory way. So I want to see our seniors be taken care of. That needs to be. Racial equality. Several presidents in the last 40 years had said they were going to do something. Even this gentleman who's stepping in said he's going to do something. Now, he kind of put some fronting people, and he picked fronting people next to him. What will this mean? The next 4 years will tell. I'm not going to try to pro-calculate of what it is of what this gentleman is going to do. I see some good things that are showing me some good intent. Let's leave it like this. And like I said before, I wish everyone the best here. I have no animosity. It's about America. It's about our people. And if he can't handle it, then move over. That's all I could say. You know, we have to take it to the next level of moving up, moving forwards to excel and to merge. And it's the best thing I think is to advance our peoples and someone who can understand design to implement some of the things, to explain them. It's one thing I've done professionally for 40 years as customer service. I love people. Tens of thousands of homes. I've been in your homes. So, and I love, and most people wouldn't consider this, but how many national security people are stuck in the middle of this and they have no voice? Again, ouch. Aside from a family member was one of the first responders at 9/11, and they were told they could breathe the air. More people died after the collapse than died in that collapse because of that. Not acceptable. When do we guide us correctly? We would see the proof of this. I wouldn't be able to say these things. I wouldn't. Forgive me from my heart with the negative things that I say, but my intent is to fix it. And as a professional, and I say this with 14 licenses and 5 EPA certifications contained within, and now a certification in hypnotherapy, we need to acknowledge the truth to fix it. And I'm excellent. I've proven this in my career, my histories, and I've moved away from everything to do these things and to move on to aid what we could do moving forwards. And I want to say, while we can look at our government and we can kind of say, well, we're not really happy in many ways, we have to appreciate, very strong word, appreciate that they've made us number one. While we can complain, fine. For those people out there who need to hear it, for the activists, let's put them in their place. For those of you who are reasonable, let's reason with them. I want to be like the one thing Benjamin Franklin did stand for is he was a good navigator to negotiate. Let's see what one side needs, what the other side needs. Let's come and find a intermediate location that is acceptable by the majority easily. We shouldn't ever have a problem having 70% of our people agree with anything. And only because we had so much anguish with what this gentleman was doing that a lot of people were in tune with. And then other people who didn't really hear about it, so they felt that he was doing some things when he reversed what he said. And then we had what, 160 something million people come out and vote in 100 years. We haven't done that. Why? Maybe our government's formations are turning us off. Maybe the Constitution was never modeled to the Declaration. Okay. It sounds very plausible because the Declaration, if it modeled into the Constitution, would not allow all of these separations. And that's another thing the Declaration is. What's one word that describes everything that's happening right now, and every level you could think of, including a political genre, is separating. That's a heavy word. And aside from that, most people understand that we are separate and equal stations. It's funny because it's a funny term to hear this, but we're all spirit is individual, separate and equal stations to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled us. And when we hear these words, It sounds unfamiliar, but that's why I had to write a book about it, because the kinesthesia, the movement of what it represents is huge, huge. And then also, a decent respect to the opinions with an S of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Another quote from the Declaration of Independence. It's telling us that we would be separating. It's telling us that when we act political, we will separate. It's telling us when we start to separate, what do you think is going to happen when things separate? It starts to come apart. And that's what we see. A child to have 240 toxins. I mean, come on, this is not acceptable. So let's go to the next thing. I would like to align formation for the unsatisfied and the disgruntled. For the 49% of the people, approximately, who 47%, I'm not going to split hairs to try to be exact, but it's darn close, people who don't vote. Why? I'll be honest with you, because you're heartful and you're smart. So you're smart heart. And are the people not smart heart who are getting into the political system? They're a little different. They're very tolerant. They're jumping in. Some of them are ready to swing. Come on, let me at it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's talk about it. For those who want to make the adjustments, let's allow the talk to be talked so we can walk the right talk and talk that talk into a real walk. That is key. So I would like it to be a formation of alignment so we can have um, places that people can vent. And I've recently made one. It's called JoinSpot, joinspot.us. I made it a non-political site. It's not complete, but it's 90% right now. Um, but it's going to be for those who don't like the political system, who just maybe who do, excuse me, maybe who do. So you just want to be able to vent things. And I made that site to make a new family, because it's important that we have the ability to have a unison and ways to guide us and ways to make us feel together. I felt that was one of the things that if I speak these words, I had to do, and I did. Um, so I would like to settle the corporation's toxicity, which is the next challenge. Let's get down to 240, whatever it is, 230 toxins in our children. Let's get rid of that. Um, let's see the respect of the percentage to life and how we understand what suffering is. That's a conversation in itself. We can't have that. I don't have enough time right now. I won't do it today. Um, so keeping us happy, keeping us number one, making new jobs, never before seen, never before done, making a new unison, bringing us together. I think it's extremely, extremely relative that we can do this. We are Americans, thus the name, yes. So if any of you have heart for our country, for our nation, for our humans, understand there are a bunch of people who are turned off. And these people have heart too. How do we get them back enticed? We need to refresh our government. We need to advance as a civilization. We need to do what the people felt was going to be done. But I just look at it as if you're president of the United States and you're not motivating the people within to satisfy the people who we serve. Did you really take the opportunity, except aside from looking at the very large picture, which ultimately, with no disrespect, the one fact, financial fact that this gentleman just left, he increased the rich. Now that's okay, but you have to understand what it is relative to the GDP, jobs, and you have to realize what it is when school teachers don't have enough money to buy books and stuff, and we're having signals that are becoming damaging to our brains and our bodies while people try to deny this. We found two rights: those who can say it's right because they have money to say it is, and then we have scientific research on the other side that shows there's a different story. Where do we balance this? We need to advance as a civilization. We need to come together. Very important. Is this gentleman going to do this? I will. My name is Charles Richard Zarelli. Let's continue. So, um, the Declaration of Independence to resolve our fear by the direct kinesthetics of media, instead of letting it go apart, to bring us forwards, to embrace our differences, to embrace our differences. This takes not because we're grown up and considered chronologically an adult, but this takes an adult mindset, to be a little bit stronger, to think outside of what we're so used to. We're so used to all these things around us and how many things that we've seen from the top. People are lying and all these anguish. And what do you think? Well, modeling it. Every human being models. That's a fact. That is a fact. There's no question about it. It's part of our makeup of our mental framing. From 1 to 7, we model. And how do you think whenever someone walks and talks, they learn from people that they're around? And why do you think when someone comes from another country, comes here, they don't have the same habits? Why? Because they learn their habits over there. And when we go over there, it's the same in reverse. So there's a balance here that we can have. Um, but to embrace our differences and double up at it, not double down. Today, I'm not going to tell you what the difference is. You have to wait for that. Extremely important because doubling up is far more powerful. Um, to feel our hearts while not forgetting that we need to be number one, to cause a new unison, to be reconnected, acknowledging to be the business that we actually have already assumed the place, responsibility, and liability for, which is more than half the world's net worth daily. Will China override us? I would say then if they do, we've blown our opportunity possibly. We still can forefront what we can. I believe if we act in the way that I'm referencing here, we would make new jobs and new positions that have never, ever been before implemented. Ecological responsibility that accompanies this global liability, not hide it, and not let media harsh this oblique view that we receive, that our IRs and our RAS have perceived, must now be advanced. We can do this. We are American. We must advance a people, and a people can advance our nation. It is an integral thing. This is beautiful when you start to see the design and we start to bring out those things that could advance us, to bring us together. I love it. So in short, I should have had this opportunity to be the commander in chief, to show and to deliver a new respect for us, modeling the forgotten Declaration of Independence that no one is defining, even to date. People mention it, but they don't define it. I would like any bit of anyone who wants to challenge me and to be open not only just to the grand orders that have existed in the past, because I wouldn't want these people not to be with their children and their ex-wives or their wives and their families. If they excel and they excel wrong and they thought they knew it, but only because they found 3/4 of the system or 60% of it, and they felt so confident and they doubled down on it, they never learned what doubling up is. Maybe they didn't understand what, when you cycle, there are things relative. There's a gentleman, Edgar Casey, and he had said all of our thoughts. He, by the way, he was the world's most known clairvoyant. He had over 90% predictability rate for the future. Imagine this. And I ask now in front of our Zoom people and the earth, and my voice carries into the earth, Edgar Casey, please grant me what it is I would need to know to make that you hear my words, please, and to make these words come to truth and to light. I want to say I don't want to be first, but I want it to be for our people. I give exactly what the Declaration says. And the last sentence, once again, and I'm not going to say it, I will end it with that statement because it's very powerful and we've been avoiding this. Let me continue, please. So I should have had this opportunity. I should have been the commander in chief to deliver new respect, modeling our forgotten Declaration of Independence that no one is defining, yet we only hear disabled pieces, not connected with the whole value that it represents and what she represents, not just nationally, but globally. She is this powerful. We already have a stronghold on the earth to a certain degree. but we really don't talk about it. I think this is something that the people who've made us number one, there's an appreciation that when we start to look at it, I think they'll be more pliable to work with us to make these changes. We can't have corporations acting and they don't put into the system. We did not have a deficit 40 something, 44 years ago, give or take. There was no deficit. Most people don't know this. Taxes were changed then, and it was 92 cents on every dollar then. And now look, it's been changed. And since that model financial plan, it's leading into today, it's only make a bunch of deficiencies. And ultimately, when you value and see the value of what it is that we're just suffering people, is this who we are as a nation? I don't think so. I think we have better than this. So please judge all presidents. And when I get there and I make things start to happen in a new unison, a new solidarity, and a new respect, judge us and all of us by our executive orders, because all bills that need to be created and all the executive orders relative to a president is because of the team and what they implement and how they put it together and how it comes together. You can see what someone really, without saying a word, really what they represented. The rich upfolded 600% today. I think they'd want to advance our civilization when they start to realize what it is that they've been not accomplishing. If the ancient scroll science is correct and the Declaration of Independence models it, I believe they're not thinking into the future as far as enough as need be to make it settled. So the executive orders that can be seen, you can go to congress.gov, um, and elsewhere will also be supportive, is the direction that we are going, that you allow. So be wise and be heartful. How about heartful smart? Be heartful smart, do your research. Don't say a word, please. We all complain. Go out and do the research, see what the executive orders represent. Then you will know where we went. How did it be that no matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, the rich upfolded 600%? How'd that happen? The Democrats, what are you standing for? Republicans, what are you standing for? You're really standing for the same story. That's why I am the Declaration of Independence Party. A third party is extremely important and it's needed today. So this is pretty much what's happening here, I believe. So let's also note, anyone who swears to the U.S. Constitution is also swearing to the Declaration of Independence first. What happened to this? Where is the guide and issuance that takes us to this level of a high echelon of life, of humanity, seeing us advance? Do you see us advancing? Any of us? No. People who think they have that much money, they may feel for some reason that dominating and subjugating is part of the domo, but the grand orders, when you extend them, and I hereby want to say that anyone who has grand orders in such a degree, in whatever the team may be, I challenge them. I respectfully challenge them. I'd like to be in a nice environment, welcomed, and I'd like you to put all your cards on the table, and I'm going to show you different things we can go over that you'll start to see, wait a minute, the Declaration of Independence is a higher series of orders. And if those who have the most want to be the most next, Lucy, a little bit of work to do. So, in the respect of all people, in the respect of who and what we are, I love our country. I love and care for all of you. I'd like to see these things settled. And just as once again, the quick note, let's just go back over the list again. I challenge these items. I want to see these things changed. Otherwise, you must insist that I run again. You must insist that I be the president of the United States. You must insist that I voice for your voice, because my heart and my mind are already connected to you. And Edgar Cayce said that all thoughts are on an information highway. In the end, it goes to an information pool. Imagine you misunderstood what suffering people were for the people at the top and you did it incorrectly, or you were heartless and you didn't understand that that's part of what's going to really, really count next. And what? You're not going to be with your wife. You're not going to be with your children. You're going to lose what you've had. And from what I understand, it'll be forever at that point. And I believe expanding the word, what we think of, in the respect of God, because everyone uses the word God all the time. And I believe that all, by the way, all the Bibles and everything written not only have an astrological placement of a commonality, that's a fact, but the Bible's never mentioned 5 mass extinctions. And when we dig down in carbon, we could see it. And every time the Earth lasted less of a time, there was a higher carbon rate. Anytime it lasted longer, it was less of a carbon rate. And for those of you, I need to be positive, but we need to fix these things. I'm not saying this to be a Debbie Downer. Sorry, Deb. Just a term. But we need to accept these things to fix them. So our carbon rate is relative as we are presently on a mass extinction list. Any HR Green New Deal is not enough for me. When I'm very science, I'm extremely very science and very mechanical as well as business. A tab, I don't want to say the word political. I want to say human, because I think that manifests into making a new unison, to have a respect to people who are turned off to our system. I want to bring them back in. I want to turn you back on. I want to turn the switch on your light and just bring it up just a little bit to make you feel like, wow, there's a glimmer of light. And as you come closer and closer, I'm going to make it a little bit brighter so you feel more comfortable and you can see what's around you. I believe in intelligence shouldn't have to hide the majority of what we do. The Declaration of Independence supports this. And so let's just run the list off: carbon parts per million, racial equality, seniors being taken care of, settling toxicity from corporations, especially that we see them, having a respect into what's being born, and removing the toxicities from our children as the most highest possible degree as we can. And settle corporations where we have to balance it out. They are the source, they are the form. It's a new balance that is required, that requires your help of all the corporations. And I plead and request from you to do this, because when I tell you my heart feels you and I understand what it is when you get in habits of things. All of you have become in habit of money and power, and especially when you're used to dominating. But is that going to get you the most to get to the next? Is it going to look out for our national security people who are stuck in the middle? I don't think so at all. Every cell in my body tells me this. When I see the design, the kinesthetics, when I see the ancient science, when I see the grand orders that were, it's saying a way different story. The respect of who and what we are, I think, is what we need to advance and advance our society. And the last statement I'd like to end with is the most beautiful. And I challenge every one of you to think about this. Even if you can't do it, just think about it, please. I ask you from my heart, for America, for our country, for our people. And by the way, when I see homeless, to me, that's like not putting them the same thing, except obviously they're way beyond turned off. They've just bailed out. But the people who have, the lesser of the 49%, 47, 45% of people who won't vote, they're smart. They're turned off. They're just like, and I see them as a Geiger counter, as well as I see homeless people as a Geiger counter. Sorry, I'm not meaning to point to the flag at that. But however, America's housing it. We have more homeless now than ever. So these things are fixable. And I challenge you to think of this last statement, please. It's a quote in the last sentence of the Declaration of Independence. I love her. I wish the Declaration of Independence was a woman, because I would marry her. It sounds funny, but um, when you start to understand what she stands for, whew, amazingly beautiful, powerful, and a balance to fair life. Also keeping the rich people rich, respecting those who need it, and putting in equality and spreading this notion into an advanced civilization we could easily be. So the last sentence is, and for this quote, and for support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Close quote. Whew. Thank you very much for listening. And I wanted to do this at the same time the inauguration was happening, give or take. And I felt once again I should have been there. Well, who knows? You know, there's a saying in the ancient science, anything can happen in 24 hours. So when we look at things like mathematicians and things, and we see the math relative to the pyramids and how when you do the numbers, this no mistake. We have ancient civilizations that have learned, and I believe we have a people who were our procreators. I'm not going to say their name here and now, but there was no word death, but the word cycle. And they showed a double helix DNA in a 10-year-old child. And I think it's relative to God, without a doubt. And a God would have procreators. Imagine you have some people who don't know something, and then there's somebody who already learned it. And what do? You have those people go show those people. I believe there's modeling from them. And some people, Zachariah Stitchin made a trilogy, a 3-book series about this. He said we were being made slaves by them. I disagree. It's more logical and plausible to say that we are primal, and we had, out of the 140 personality realities, we had a few people who didn't want to go with it and made a faction to stop them because they couldn't compete against them. Sometimes when you feel like you can't take something on, you don't know what to do. But laws of nature and of nature's God, that's a term in the Declaration of Independence. By the way, that stands for every two of anything: science, material, chemical, sociologically, envisionment, everything just when you hear the term, what goes around comes around, laws of nature, nature's God. This is all part of the ancient scroll science. This is why these guys modeled, I believe, us modeling in what these people shown us. And they showed a double helix DNA in a stone tablet, by the way, carved into stone, carbon dated 460,000 years old. Beautiful, amazing. And there was a person, he was a man, going like this with a test tube and a 10-year-old boy and a female behind the boy. And it said they were responsible for adjusting our DNA to make us be Neanderthals from all fours that we were to stand upright to be Homo sapiens and who we are. Let's talk about our real science. Let's talk about real things that fit. Let's see the things that are plausible that fit and make this whole mystery, because we can uncover the history to be implored, to be advanced. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you being here, and all of those I know who love me and care. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your support, and I look forward to future support because I'm going to need it. Thank you very much. My name is Charles Richard Zarelli. And at that point, I was running for the president of the United States. Where do I stand right now? On top of the fence. I look at laws of nature and nature's God. Let's see what the signs and what people will show, because I believe the escalation of our civilization needs to advance. Thank you very much for being here, and I wish the best to JB and Tamala and all the people, and they're bringing in. I mean, it's so wonderful. We're seeing a diverse crew here. Let's see what this means for the next steps. Thank you very much. My name is Charles Richard Zarelli. Anyone who wants to call me, feel free. 718-865-8720, especially those who care to support. Thank you very much. Happy America. Thank you. I just want to add here as an afternote that I was streaming on YouTube, and for some reason now it's lost. Let me just check behind this window. Yeah, I don't know what happened to it because it was. Nope, it didn't go to Zoom. It didn't go to YouTube. So anyway, today is January 20th, 2021, 1:04 p.m. And I just did a Zoom video, which I thought I was on YouTube, which I was. I was already aligned on there. What ended up happening is a good question, because where did it go? It stopped. But why did it stop is a good question. Yeah, that's a really good question of why it stopped. All right, so that's how I'm going to leave it for now. I guess it matches how many other things I've had in emails. News people don't get back to you, several thousand. Um, Phones don't work right. The FBI doesn't respond to you. House broken into. Police fail to make the police report, and they insist not to. Uh, all recorded, by the way. So I just want to leave that as part of what it is, and that's it. And leave it for now. Charles Richard Zarelli, 1:06 p.m., 1/20/2021, and bless those who are going to have all the abilities for their new inauguration, and may they lead America correctly and deliver us where we need to be in a new unison and a new solidarity for real. And I hope and pray to God that they stop the lies and mean what they say and mean it and show it without even a word. Thank you.